West of Scotland, the wet weather continuing here. Elsewhere, the showers have been more off and on, but we'll keep some feeding into western parts through the night. Much of the Midlands and eastern England will become dry overnight with lengthy clear spells. The wind's easing just a touch as well, which will allow those temperatures to dip down into single figures. A fresh start to Friday across the Midlands and eastern England, though plenty of sunshine. Further west, well, you might wake up to some sunshine, but the showers are never too far away, and still fairly thick clouds sitting over the Highlands, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles, with further outbreaks of rain here. Still windy, but not quite as windy as today. A gusty breeze blowing elsewhere that'll bring the showers through Northern Ireland. Probably a dry, fine start, though, in Belfast. Maybe across parts of East Wales as well, but certainly West Wales, Western England already having those showers in the morning. And after a sunny start, we'll see the clouds bubbling up over the Midlands, Eastern England, and showers developing here, probably by late morning onwards. The showers, like today, will be heavy, perhaps even turn into thunderstorms, but they should move through because there's enough of a breeze. So that mix of sunshine and downpours through the afternoon. When the sun's out, temperatures getting into the high teens, but feeling cooler with the breeze, and certainly those temperatures will drop when the showers come along. Heading out on Friday evening, well, be prepared for further heavy downpours, a lot of spray and surface water on the roads as well as the showers continue. They should start to ease through Friday nights, but we've still got low pressure, we've still got plenty of showers coming in for Saturday. And then for Sunday, eyes on this deepening area of low pressure approaching. That's going to bring a spell of heavy rain, but also, especially late in the day, some strong winds. There's a Met Office yellow warning in place.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Expect delays on the A90 at Lawrence Kirk due to a road incident restricting northbound lanes. Motorists should prepare for congestion. On the M27 westbound, an exit slip at Junction 8 is causing one-lane closure. In South Tyneside, the A19 northbound has congestion between the A184 and A185 junctions with 10-minute delays. In Northamptonshire, a broken-down vehicle on the A14 westbound between Junction 1 and the M1 Catthorpe interchange has closed one lane. And on the trains, cross-country services face disruption between Nuneaton and Leicester, while Great Northern has no services at Old Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, a free speech activist gunned down for having opinions others didn't like. Opinions, by the way, which to many are just basic common sense. I've got to tell you, so many people today are literally celebrating his death. Charlie Kirk, we have a lot to discuss. Also today, he has gone, Peter Mandelson that is. But get this, people now are calling for the vetting documentation relating to his appointment to be released. Should it be or not? And the ECHR, we talk a lot about this, don't we? But Suella Braverman and Reform UK announcing their ideas today. Let's discuss it. There's so much that we need to get through tonight. My panel, I've got Leila Cunningham, the Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, and Matt Stadlen, the political commentator. Before we do get stuck in, though, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you. The top stories. The FBI has released images of a person of interest in the killing of Charlie Kirk. Officials say the suspect appears to be of college age. 30-year-old conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot while giving a talk at Utah Valley University. Eyewitnesses say a figure on a rooftop fired a single round, hitting him in the neck. Kirk was rushed to hospital by his security team, but 2 hours later, the US president announced Kirk had died of his injuries. Former presidents and world leaders have condemned the killing, with Sir Keir Starmer calling it heartbreaking and insisting political debate must never descend into violence. Today marks the anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks that shocked the world. Vigils have been held across the globe, including in the US and the UK, to remember the victims and heroes from that fatal day. US President Donald Trump addressed a memorial service in Arlington to mark the day.
We will support our troops, we will protect our families, and we will preserve the American way of life for every future generation. We will build taller, grow stronger, fight harder, and soar higher. And together we will go forward as one people with one heart, one fate, one flag, and one glorious destiny under Almighty God. May God bless the memories of those who died and the heroes who fought and the soldiers who still stand watch. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
GB News' political editor Christopher Hope spoke to the US ambassador to the UK, Warren Stevens, to mark the tragic day.
Just knew it was going to be horrific. It was disbelief, really. I mean, I couldn't fathom. I couldn't fathom when I saw that the first plane had hit World Trade Center. I just couldn't fathom how the pilot did it. Never dreaming it was intentional.
And you were there the day before in New York.
We were there on September 10th and came home that night, and the weather was awful. Sat on the runway 3 hours, and when our friend and neighbor called us about a plane that hit the World Trade Center, I assumed it had to do with the bad weather, and when we turned on the television, it was a bluebird day, and you just couldn't believe it.
Israel's president met the Prime Minister in Downing Street yesterday, a day after a deadly strike on Qatar's capital, Doha. And since, there have been rumours of tensions between Sir Keir Starmer and the Israeli president. Isaac Herzog sat down with GB News' Martin Daubeny a short while ago to discuss.
I've been in 10 Downing many times. It was actually raining, but I would say that we are allies. And the problem is the enormous distortion by certain media outlets and commentators. We are allies. Yeah. Israel and the United Kingdom are allies on so many frontiers. We, Israel, are defending Europe, defending the world. We are fighting Hamas, which is a jihadist terror organization of the worst kind. So Prime Minister Starmer made a statement about it with me. To blame Israel because, in my mind, it serves certain political narratives on the left is a huge mistake.
In other news, James Roscoe has been appointed Britain's interim ambassador to the United States. It's after Lord Mandelson was sacked after emails revealed the true depth of his relationship with paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. It comes just days after the ambassador himself admitted further embarrassing emails were likely to emerge, including one in which he called Epstein his best pal. The Foreign Office says the correspondence was materially different to what was known when he was appointed. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs yesterday he still had confidence in Mandelson, but today in the comments his withdrawal was confirmed. The decision follows growing outrage across Westminster, with Health Secretary Wes Streeting calling the messages disgusting and Home Office Minister Mike Tapp describing them as sickening. After pressing the government with an urgent question, Tory MP Neil O'Brien said Mandelson's removal was the only possible outcome.
This is yet another extraordinary error of judgment by this weak Prime Minister. And I pay tribute to the Leader of the Opposition for yesterday securing justice for the victims of Epstein. This raises massive questions. It is not just that Peter Mandelson said that Epstein was his best pal and that he loved him. It wasn't just that he brokered a deal for him while he was business secretary. We now, of course, know that he was working for Epstein's early release after he was convicted.
Labour's deputy leadership race has narrowed again, with Dame Emily Thornberry pulling out after failing to gain enough support. Her withdrawal comes as a day after Alison McGovern dropped out, leaving 4 candidates still in the running. They include Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, former Commons leader Lucy Powell, and we have just found out in the last few minutes that Labour backbencher Belle Ribeiro Addy said she has not secured the required 80 MP nominations to make it into the second round of the contest. Paula Barker, still in the running. She is the ex-Shadow Housing Minister. And Britain is stepping up its support for Ukraine with plans to begin large-scale production of advanced interceptor drones. The aircraft, designed in Kyiv with British expertise, have already proved effective against the Iranian-made Shahed drones Russia continues to launch, but at a fraction of the cost of traditional missiles. The move comes after NATO forces in Poland shot down suspected Russian drones that violated their airspace, the first known NATO engagement of the war. Defence Secretary John Healey says the project is a first-of-its-kind deal, while the Prime Minister calls it a landmark moment in Britain's backing for Ukraine. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour. Now it's over to Michelle.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you till 7. Alongside me, I've got my panel, Leila Cunningham, Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, and alongside her, I've got Matthew Stadlen, political commentator. Good evening to both of you. You're very welcome tonight. As are each and every single one of you at home, what is on your mind tonight, ladies and gents? Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet and you can X me. Very strange night I had last night, I've got to tell you, watching the news unfold about Charlie Kirk. Such a big story, and there's so much I want to unpick and discuss with you on that one, so I shall come to that in a second. But look, before I do get to that story, I want to talk to you about Peter Mandelson. We've spoken about him now over the last couple of days. We've had huge debates about whether or not he's going to stay or whether or not he's going to go. Well, we got our answer today. Take a listen to this.
In light of additional information in emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States. Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. And in light of that, Mr. Speaker, and mindful, as we all are, of the victims of Epstein's appalling crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Let's listen to how Kemi Badenoch responded to the news.
Keir Starmer has very, very bad judgment. this appointment was a personal appointment by him. He put Peter Mandelson in that job, even though he'd had to resign from cabinet twice in disgrace. He could have had a diplomat doing the role, chose to put a Labour politician with a reputation that was already known, and it is not a surprise that this has come to pass. And this is only the latest resignation or sacking that we've seen. He's lost his ambassador to the US, he's lost his deputy prime minister, he lost the transport secretary accused of fraud, he knew about that, he lost an anti-corruption minister because of allegations of corruption which he was aware of. This keeps happening again and again, and it will continue to happen.
And that's not the end of the bad news for Peter Mandelson, because get this, everybody, can you imagine? He's also lost his role as the High Steward of Hull, my hometown. He's lost his role, High Steward of Hull. I don't think so. Get out. Anyway, Leila Cunningham, your thoughts on this?
How many times is the Prime Minister going to stand up in Parliament and say, I fully stand by someone, and 2 days later they resign? This isn't just a resignation, it's another act of failure on his judgment. And, Michelle, resignations don't wipe the slates clean. It just emphasises the fact that he has very poor judgment, and it's a government mired in corruption.
Matthew?
It's extremely disappointing. And it's extremely disappointing because I think it's another self-inflicted wound by the Prime Minister and by the government. It should have been perfectly obvious to him that it was an inappropriate appointment in the first place. I couldn't quite believe it at the time. And there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of new information that has come into the public domain that would suggest that Starmer is in a particularly different position now to the position he was in when he appointed Peter Mandelson. Why do I say that? I say it because I think it was public knowledge that Peter Mandelson had stayed in Jeffrey Epstein's home after his first conviction. And I just cannot see a world in which it is thought to be a sensible decision, either from a policy point of view or indeed from a political point of view, to appoint someone who had been so close to a man who was a convicted paedophile.
He wasn't just a friend, he was a sycophant. He was in awe of Epstein. I mean, he was nicknamed PC, so what was Starmer thinking to send bathrobe PT to represent us in the US? What does that say about Starmer's judgment? And what else is hiding behind the scenes in the closet? What else is going to come out?
I talked about policy. I said it wasn't a good political decision or a policy decision. By policy, I meant on the merits, it was a bad decision. Shouldn't have been appointed. The reason he was appointed was because I think, and people around him as advisors thought that Mandelson would do a good job in Washington. And by the way, I think he did do a good job in Washington. One of the bright spots so far of this Labour administration is how they've handled Donald Trump, and I suspect that Peter Mandelson was at the heart of that.
What are you saying they've lied about?
Starmer lied to Donald Trump. He stood in front of him when Trump was here and said, absolutely, we value freedom of speech and we're controlling our borders. That was a complete lie. We had the Home Secretary yesterday come and say, one thing I'm going to do in my role is control the borders. So it's one thing to lie and it's another thing to call handle. And by the way, he had very little respect in the US, Mandelson. Everyone in the US knew. Knew that he was connected.
The Starmer administration has done well with Donald Trump.
In what sense? What have we seen from it?
They have kept on side a president of the United States that we all know,
How do you know is
not because of the way he handled the tariffs, that he was giving us preferential tariffs.
Have we had those yet?
Just for example. But also we see that David Lammy, who we know what he must think of some of the things that come out of the mouth of J.D. Vance, but he managed to build a decent relationship with that man, and that is important from a point of view of British jobs and British trade. And by the way, I'd strongly push back against what you just said, that it was a lie that Starmer values free speech. This is a complete myth. Starmer, of course he values free speech. Of course, as someone on the centre-left, myself, I strongly value free speech. There have always been limits to free speech. And one of the things we're wrestling with at the moment is how to deal with social media. Because, of course, we don't want people to be arrested for tweets in an ideal world. But at the same time, social media does not stand outside the law.
Well, don't you worry about this, ladies and gents, because I want to get fully into this free speech situation, because I absolutely noticed Keir Starmer's response to this horrendous murder of Charlie Kirk. So we will get onto that. Don't you worry about that. But I do do just want to stick with this Mandelson thing just for a second, because now people are calling Leila for the vetting documentation. So people are saying to Starmer, what did you look at? What did you ask? What were you aware of at the time that you appointed Mandelson? All of that information, some people are calling, should be made public. Should it be or not?
Yeah, so it's no longer about Mandelson. The story is, what did Starmer know? And what did he choose to ignore to appoint a Labour crony? That's it.
I think release that stuff.
How many cronies are we going to have to put up with? How many corrupt cronies are we going to have to... 2 days ago, he stood up and said that he stood by him. 2 days before Angela Rayner resigned, he said he stood by her. I think he stood up before Louise Haigh also. I mean, she actually lied to the police about a stolen phone. And then you've got Tulip Sadiq, who's also being investigated for corruption. How many in his front bench or at the top of the Labour Party are involved in some form of corruption? And yet the backbenchers and people on the left don't dare to call him out. It is a huge, huge hypocrisy. It's a masterclass.
I'm not sure in Mandelson's case the charge is that he's been corrupt, so I think you've got to be careful about throwing words like that around. It was an inappropriate appointment.
Inappropriate.
And we should release... And documents such as the ones you've suggested, I think it's perfectly reasonable to call for them to be put in the public domain. I would just say that we already know that Starmer shouldn't have appointed Mandelson in the first place, because we already know that he should have known that that Mandelson was associating with someone who had already been convicted.
Do you think Starmer should apologise for embarrassing us on the national stage?
I very much doubt he will apologise, but in an ideal world he probably should.
What do you think to it? I've got a simple question, but I've got to tell you, it's a tongue-in-cheek question, because I think I already know the answer. I was going to say, does this kind of create more trust when it comes to Keir Starmer? Do you sit there and go, actually, Michelle, he is the man for us? Or does this be another kind of nail in the coffin when it comes to your trust, not just in Labour politicians, but perhaps in the political establishment more broadly? Give me your thoughts on that. But look, I really do want to get into the topic of Charlie Kirk. There's so much that we need to discuss. We'll do it after the break.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. Till 7, I've got Layla Cunningham and Matt Stadlen alongside me. I really do want to get into the absolutely horrific murder of Charlie Kirk, which unfolded last night. I've got to tell you, my mouth was on the floor. I don't know Charlie, I've never met Charlie, but of course I was aware of who he was. Absolutely horrendous, horrific situation. I'll bring my panel in just a second, but before I do that, I do just want to cross live to Jim Kennedy. He is a former advisor to Bill Clinton. I mean, here in the UK, absolutely shocked and stunned by what unfolded last night. Tell me your reaction to it.
Well, it was a terrible tragedy, and so many of us are praying for Charlie Kirk and his family at this time. I did take some heart in the fact that all the former presidents of both parties, including President Trump, have expressed grief and outrage at what happened. Unfortunately, there's been some signs of division resulting from this, which is most unfortunate because I think we should be united in grief for what occurred.
Yeah, and talk to me about those splits, because here in the UK, there's been a lot of people saying, hold on a second, you're all touched and upset by what happened to Charlie Kirk. But of course, when it came to the awful, horrendous murder of Melissa Hortman not long ago, actually, I think it was in June, people are saying that people were not outraged by her murder. Is that something that's felt those double standards perhaps in America as well?
Well, hate does not respect either ideology, and you see forms of it on all sides. I think we should focus on the fact that there is evil in the world, and we need to focus on that and not so much partisan ideology. There have been two unfortunate trends in society, both in America and around the world. I think one is a loss of faith in God, and the other is too much faith in technology, and particularly social media and AI. And I think those are like Pandora's boxes or jars, which are unleashing, evils around the world and really helping to divide us. And that is an unfortunate result of events like this. I think we need to kind of focus on that loss of faith and making a false god of technology, and I think confront those realities, as I think Charlie Kirk himself was addressing in part.
I mean, in the House of Representatives today, there was a request actually to do a prayer for Charlie Kirk. Some Democrats apparently then shouted no. A senior Republican then shouted back to the Democrats, you've all caused this. What do you think to that?
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Again, I think there's been too much hate on both sides. When I worked for Bill and Hillary Clinton in the earlier days of the internet, I witnessed a lot of vitriol exhibited against them. And when I worked for the past 11 years for Rupert Murdoch, I saw a lot of hate unleashed by the left against him. So it exists in all corners. And I think we have to kind of come to terms with how much division there is in the world and find ways to cross the boundary and talk to each other. I think Charlie Kirk, whatever you think about his points of view, he was one who was interested in promoting dialogue. He had a recent interview with Gavin Newsom of California as one evidence of the fact that he was interested in crossing party lines to have a vigorous, healthy debate. There's healthy debate and there's unhealthy division. And I think we need more of the former and less of the latter.
Yeah, but then how do you create that? Because at the end of the day, we have people, you've got them in your country, we've got them in our country. They simply cannot bear to hear an opinion that they don't agree with. You need to apply trigger warnings to everything. You've got to have safe spaces everywhere. If someone's got a different opinion to you, labels like Nazi, fascist, they're thrown around. And as we've just been discussing, people celebrating what happened to Charlie Kirk. So how do you then go on to try and fix that?
I know, I think it's awful. Again, I think we need to kind of dig deep into ourselves and find out, what kind of vacuum there is in our lives. And again, I think it comes from a loss of faith in society and too much embrace of man-made things. And those are exacerbating the divisions in society. We need to find a way to kind of heal that divide. And there are efforts underway by some people in both parties to do that, but they're often outshouted. So we need to find ways to come together. And we did so, after 9/11, for the most part, people did come together. Again, that was before social media. I fear what would happen if another 9/11 happened. I'm not sure we would have that same unity of purpose.
Well, yeah, because actually you mentioned 9/11, and of course it is the anniversary of that horrific, horrendous, murderous terrorist attack today. You were actually working, I think, with Hillary Clinton on that day at the Capitol. I mean, you say, and I found that quite an interesting point, that if an incident like that happened today, how would the world react with the presence of social media?
Yeah, I think it would be a very different reaction, unfortunately. I remember being with Hillary Clinton on that day, and that evening we walked to the Capitol steps, and Republicans and Democrats joined together on the steps of the Capitol to sing God Bless America. It was a riveting, moving moment, which I think we should remember and honor, because it was a symbol of how both parties came together. And then I joined a day or two after 9/11, I joined with Hillary Clinton to go to the Pentagon, and she was with Senator John Warner, who was a Republican, and the two of them stood side by side in front of the Pentagon to talk about the efforts to find justice here in this case. And so again, there was another symbol of party unity across party lines in the wake of that disaster. I think we need to look back and remind ourselves of what happened then and try to rediscover that unity of purpose.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Jim Kennedy, the former advisor to Bill Clinton, thank you for joining us on Dewbs and Kurt tonight. Charlie Kirk, let me ask you a couple of things. Did you know who he was before he was shot and killed last night? If you did know who he was, what was your opinion of him? I want you to tell me. And what do you make to what has gone on? Because if you didn't know who he was this time last night, I'm sure that you absolutely do now. But he was essentially somebody, quite a young man, very successful in his field, someone that was passionate about free speech, someone that was very, very passionate about debate, and someone that really wanted to take the conversations to the people that needed to have them. He felt, in particular, younger people going to university campuses, sitting there saying, essentially, challenge me, prove me wrong. And it was, of course, at one of those events in Utah last night where he was then gunned down. Layla Cunningham, what's your initial reaction to this?
So I don't want to... Charlie Kirk was a legend because what he did is he spoke to a youth and young people who felt ignored and who felt even they were shamed into being who they are. And they were told, the left told boys to hate themselves under invented terms such as toxic masculinity. And he told them to fight back, that you don't have to be ashamed. Imagine growing up in a country, poor, white and male, and then being told you are too privileged to be allowed any help. You're too privileged to apply for a job in the civil service. You're too privileged to get scholarship. You should be sentenced harsher because you're white. And the truth of the matter is, Michelle, over 50% of black boys and Indian or Asian boys go to university. Only 16% of our working white class boys go to university. And if you champion them, you're called racist. And he was fighting back for all those who feel ignored. And he told them to value themselves. And he said masculinity can be positive in a family context and that family values matter. And I think that was such an important message because we have a narrative amongst the left and amongst certain political class that demonise white boys, demonise white men. And he was pushing back against that, and he was a very important voice.
I mean, he was a very, very influential voice, and he was a very religious man, and that obviously was at the heart of the views that he passionately believed in. He believed in marriage, family. He was very anti the trans lunacy. He was very anti-abortion, for example. So therefore, there were a lot of people that disliked his opinions. But so what? So what if you dislike someone's opinion?
I don't know what you mean by the trans lunacy, because there are people who really are trans in our community, but we can talk about that perhaps another day, unless you want to debate that now. As far as Charlie Kirk is concerned, I didn't know as much until his horrific killing about him as I probably should have done, because he was a very influential figure in the American right, and I think he probably won a lot of votes for President Donald Trump at last year's US elections. And he was clearly very influential amongst younger people in the United States. I admire and support his attempts to bring conversation and debate to campuses. And as a figure on the right, I think that was probably a very worthwhile thing to do, because you don't want universities to be overtaken by groupthink. You don't want universities to have students in them who don't feel free, if that was indeed the case, to speak out if they happen to be on the right. Universities should be a place where we can debate things. So for all of that, I commend him. I've seen some extremely divisive things that he has put out on social media that I've looked into since he died.
Like what?
And so, well, to give an example, there was this horrific killing of a Ukrainian refugee a few days ago, and he put a photograph up of the hands of the alleged killer behind this...
Not the alleged killer, we all saw it.
By this... Well, we have to wait for justice to be done, don't we, in America and in Britain. But he showed the hands of this killer, who was a black man, behind the victim in this horrific attack. And he said, America will never be the same again. And that suggested to me that he was putting race at the heart of this, and that, to my mind, was an extremely divisive thing to do.
That's because you always come down to race and identity politics.
Well, he was coming down to it.
How do you know? Just
because he said America will never be the same again.
That man's hands happened to be black.
And why did he say America will never be the same again?
Because it will never be the same again when someone who flees the war in Ukraine for safety is murdered for no reason by someone who had 14 previous convictions and was released. The Democrats' way of detain and release, detain and release, detain and release
but it's simply not true to say. It's simply not true to say America will never be the same again because of that incident.
Every crime
the killing of that young woman was horrific. The killing of Charlie Kirk was horrific. You're asking me what I thought of and knew of Charlie Kirk himself. By the way, I said a prayer.
Hang on a second, because I'm not having this, I'm afraid. Sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not having this. Because whilst we're talking, I've just looked at Charlie Kirk's Twitter, and you're quite right. He has put a zoomed-in picture. And by the way, I'm going to get you this picture. I'm going to ask my producer to get you this picture.
It's a very disturbing picture, by the way, for viewers to look at.
But not for the reasons you're saying. It's about someone's about to be killed.
That's the first reason why it's very disturbing. Another reason why it's very disturbing is because the way in which Charlie Kirk framed that. Let me be clear.
Wow. I mean, it is shocking how you always fall back on race, and you
So he's the one who racialised it. He was the man who racialised it.
Here, and I need to ask my producer as well, who's listening to this debate real time. I want my producer to go on to Charlie Kirk's Twitter feed, and I want them to get this tweet, where he says America will never be the same again. And let me, while she's doing that, and it will take a few minutes to get it into the system, so do bear with me, modern technology, ladies and gents. This is a zoomed-in picture of that Ukrainian lady. You might have seen the video. You know, it's a horrendous video. She's just been stabbed and slashed in the throat. She's holding her mouth like a small child that's absolutely terrified as she's looking up into this man's face. The image is, he's cropped this picture of this girl on the thing. The guy's hand is on the railing. He says America will never be the same again. He does not mention race at all. You, Matthew Stadler,
he brings up race.
No, he did not.
Not in that. He did in other tweets. He did in other. Michelle, he did in other. Well, I'm on live television. He did in other tweets.
And he did.
I have.
Tell us what it is.
I just have.
Yes, you're talking about a photo.
His argument.
Honestly, I'm not having this. The man that killed the Ukrainian girl was a black man.
Correct.
After he'd slaughtered her, slashed her throat, he wandered up and down the carriage, going, "Yeah, I got the white girl. I got the white girl. I got the white girl." He made it about race. The black killer made it about race, Matthew Stafford. Pointing out that the killer was black and wandering around chanting that he's got the white girl does not make you a racist. It makes you someone that has eyesight and hearing that works.
No, so I'll respond to that. What I found fault with was let me explain myself. Let me. You're both. You keep telling me I'm so wrong, I didn't say it was racist.
Yes, you did. You said he says divisive. What is divisive?
It was hugely divisive because if it had been the hands of a white man, right? And you're right that the suspect in this, as I understand it, did say those words, which, along with the killing, were completely horrific. right? And the killing of Charlie Kirk itself was obviously completely horrific. What I am saying is, you asked me for evidence of the divisiveness of Charlie Kirk, and the divisiveness lies in the suggestion, which is very clear to my eyes, maybe not to yours, but certainly to mine. America will never be the same again. Why not? Would he have said that if it had been the hands of a white man who was the alleged murderer in this horrific attack?
Left a war zone for safety in America.
Correct.
And what she found was murder.
Correct.
Murder by a prolific criminal that the Democrats didn't deem dangerous enough to keep in prison. And we have the same here. That's what he means. But I'll tell you something, Matthew. That kind of left emotional blackmail that you try, it's 100%. No. It doesn't work on us anymore. Because
on who? On
anyone.
On
there's
who?
the truth. And then there's lies.
Sorry,
and the left emotional blackmail will not. People are waking up to that kind of blackmail.
Do you think that do you think if the hands of this alleged killer had been white, that he would have sent the same tweet, which has now been viewed 60 million times? I highly doubt it. But he's not here to defend himself because he was horrifically killed.
You're saying this.
I can't bear what you're doing. You're saying he's put his hands on there. Put the tweet back up again for me, please, because this is the problem that I've got within the society and the discourse in society. He has not randomly zoomed in on this guy's hands. He has put a picture of the terrified girl that's just had her throat slit. The guy's hands are black. It is a fact because he is a black man. What did you want him to do? Put a pair of gloves
No, Michelle,
on?
this is totally disingenuous. This is totally disingenuous. Now, I'll explain to you why it's disingenuous. All three of us, and I hope every single person watching this television show, of which I hear there are many, will think that this murder, which thankfully I have not seen the footage of, and that's one of the bad things about social media, that this stuff goes around. Same with the killing of Charlie Kirk. Everyone agrees it's horrific. Everyone agrees that the person who...
Let me finish it.
Don't keep interrupting me. What I am saying, because I was asked for an example of the divisiveness of Charlie Kirk, was to say that the way he framed that, in my view, by saying America will never be the same again, was deliberately divisive, and that he wouldn't have done it had those hands belonged to a white person.
How do you know that? That's just your opinion.
It is my opinion. That's what we're here to give. That's what we're here to give. What do you think he meant by America will never be the same again? And I think it's disingenuous and fatuous.
Right. One of the reasons that I personally believe that Charlie Kirk was gunned down in this way was because people have whipped up a frenzy about people on the right of politics expressing simple opinions. I'm going to carry on this conversation in 2.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's a mostly settled picture across much of Europe. Occasional sunshine in places, otherwise lots of sunshine. And that's the story across Spain and Portugal. Mostly settled here, plenty of sunny spells, though we could see some showers affecting Barcelona, also parts of Nice. But elsewhere across Italy, the Adriatic coastline, all the way through into Greece, it should be mostly dry, settled, plenty of sunshine. And that theme will continue as we head into next week, along with the warm temperatures. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out. A gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country. And like today, might even be a few thunderstorms around as well. Here's the reason why. Low pressure sitting just to the northwest. It's been a very wet and windy day in the far northwest. The winds ease a touch through the night, but the rain will persist over the highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, lots of showers zipping through at the moment, but they will tend to ease from many eastern areas. I think lengthy clear spells here. Showers never too far away from western coasts. Temperature-wise, well, dipping down into single figures for some spots. Fresh but bright start to Friday over the Midlands, much of eastern England and eastern Scotland. Generally a dry, fine start. Plenty of showers, though, in the west, and those showers will simply become more widespread as we go through the day. But as I said, generally a dry, fine start over East Anglia and the Midlands. The showers in West Wales, northwest England, likely to be heavy. Might even get a rumble of thunder again. and the showers moving through Northern Ireland. Again, there are parts of the east starting dry, and that east-west split also in evidence across Scotland, with plenty of showers in the west. The wind's not as strong as today, but still a gusty, blusterous day. The showers will, as I say, become more widespread, certainly from late morning onwards. We'll see some over the Midlands and eastern England. Always, though, most frequent in the west, just zipping through on that brisk and gusty wind, making it feel cooler than the numbers would suggest. Temperatures actually close to average for the time of year, but certainly feeling fresher with the wind and when the showers come along, and there'll be more of them on Saturday too. Again, that mixture of bright spells and heavy showers. We may start with some across the southeast on Saturday morning, but again, most of the showers in the west developing more widely through the day. Again, the odd rumble of thunder. Again, temperatures close to average, and then things likely to turn wet and very windy by the time we get to Sunday. Goodbye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users should exercise caution on the A9 Dornoch Bridge, where high winds are impacting driving conditions. There is an accident northbound on the M6 between junction 31A and junction 32, with 2 of 4 lanes currently closed, causing delays of around half an hour. In Hampshire, lane restrictions are affecting the M27 westbound exit slip road at junction 8 due to road management until later tonight. And on the trains, cross-country services are facing disruption between Nuneaton and Leicester, while Great Northern has no trains running at Old Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everyone, Michelle Dewberry with you till 7. I've got Layla Cunningham and Matt Stadlin alongside me as well. I want to continue this conversation about Charlie Kirk. Lots of you, just to summarise, you've got in touch about Peter Mandelson. There's not a single person that's written into this programme that thinks that actually he should have remained in that role. I can tell you that for free. Irene says that he should have his title of Lord taken off him as well. Maybe that's the next campaign that people are going to start putting pressure on. We shall wait and see that one with bated breath. But look, I want to carry on this conversation about Charlie Kirk. I mean, absolutely horrendous situation that we've got here. Matthew, you, before the break, said that you found Charlie divisive. We asked you for an example, or Layla asked you for an example, and you pointed to a tweet where he'd basically featured the Ukrainian woman, refugee, that had had her throat slashed by this guy. He'd cropped out the guy. You're saying that that was an example of pretty much racism, and that was divisive. You felt that you didn't get a chance to respond properly, so carry on.
I also said, by the way, that his killing was absolutely horrific, and the killing of that Ukrainian refugee was absolutely horrific. And I utterly condemn, as any right-minded person should, all forms of political violence. I was disappointed but not surprised that in his speech, Donald Trump focused on the radical left, and there is obviously a problem with radical left violence, and I utterly condemn it. But of course, there have been vicious attacks against Democrats as well, and they were not called out by the president. We've got to be consistent on this. To my mind, there is no space for hate speech. We've seen after this horrific killing quite a lot of prominent figures on the right in America, and I suspect in Britain as well, calling out hate speech on the left. I have always called out hate speech on the left, on the centre, on the right. But of course, there's a lot of hate speech coming from the very same people on the right who call out hate speech now on the left. We have to be consistent.
But do you not see that, with all due respect, you're part of the problem?
No, I do not.
I'll explain why. Because when describing why you felt that Charlie Kirk was divisive, and you're absolutely entitled to that view, lots of people think it's divisive.
It's not a controversial view. Lots of people do.
I didn't say it was. I said you're entitled to that
It's your
view.
reason that's controversial.
But your reason that you gave me was that he highlighted the murder of a white woman whose killer happened to be black, and he'd cropped the killer out But there was no denying the guy had his hand on the railing because that's where the girl's head was. And you use that as an example of him being racist.
And what you asked me to flesh that out a little bit more, and I can. Charlie Kirk was involved in the days before his horrific killing in a massive debate surrounding the also horrific killing of this young Ukrainian refugee, and it revolved around the politicisation or not of horrific events like that, and he was comparing the response to the killing. Let me explain. He was doing the politicising by saying that when George Floyd was killed, the country was sort of brought to a standstill by Black Lives Matter, and the same was not happening in response to this.
True.
And that in itself, I question the motives, but it's certainly reasonable territory for conversation. What I object to is I've just said I think it's reasonable to question it, but I wonder what his motives were. What I found very problematic with that post, which is an example that I gave in response to this question that you both put to me, which is why was he divisive? To say that America will never be the same again, I stand by my view. He would not have put those words alongside that horrific image had the killer, or the alleged killer, I should say, have been white.
Can I just focus on what Charlie Kirk really stood for? You say he was divisive. He spoke to a generation that were promised if they go to university, if they work hard, they will own a home, right? Instead, we have a generation in this country as well who did exactly that. They don't have a home. Our successive governments, low interest rates, quantitative easing have created asset bubbles. They are priced out of ever owning a home. Wages are stagnant. Inflation is rampant all the time. You work hard and you don't get anything back.
You're advocating high interest rates on national TV.
No,
you just blamed previous administrations for low interest rates.
Zero interest rates create an asset bubble. It is only good if you have access to debt. If you don't have access to debt, then you know that it creates asset bubbles.
So as a reform councillor, just to be clear, you are calling live on national television for high interest rates.
When you have zero interest rate, it erodes our savings because we get no interest on it, and it creates asset bubbles. Okay, and if you do have
high interest rates, make it very difficult for people to get mortgages. You made a point about the white working classes earlier, and I fully support you. I fully support you in giving voice to white working class boys.
Spoken about right working class
Are you an expert in my public appearances? I've been on TV and radio for hundreds of hours.
Have you ever spoken about it?
Of course I have.
No, you haven't.
You're accusing me of being a liar now. I hosted a national radio show for 4 years, in which, by the way, I talked about the white working classes, and rightly so, because the white working classes, I think you have a point, have been underrepresented for too long. But it's not a new thing, and please don't accuse me of lying, because that's really weak debate.
I'll tell you someone that I do want to focus on, Keir Starmer. After this horrendous murder of Charlie Kirk, Keir Starmer put a tweet out. The final segment on there was that we must all be free to debate openly and freely without fear. There can be no justification, he says, for political violence. I want to focus in on that final part of that tweet, and I'll do that after the break.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi there, Michelle Dewberry, Layla Cunningham and Matt Stadler. Now, before the break, I've shown you Keir Starmer's reaction to that horrendous murder of Charlie Kirk. Let me get back on the screen. He expresses his sympathy, of course, to Charlie Kirk's very young family. But he ends by saying we must all be free to debate openly and freely without fear. There can be no justification for political violence. Layla Cunningham, what's your response to that final segment of that tweet?
So what I'd really want to tell Keir Starmer, if you really believe that, then remove the online safety bill. And I know that Matthew is going to say that there is a limit to free speech. And my question back to him is who sets that limit? Because once you silence dissent, you silence democracy. And free speech is never a luxury. It's the foundation of a free society. And back to Charlie Kirk, it was the left that demonized him. It was the left that called Trump, Nazi, Hitler. I get it as part of reform. I'm racist. I'm a Nazi. I'm a and that kind of language, I'm sorry, is used mainly by the left to attack the right. That is the issue. I don't hear the right calling the left anything half as horrific. There is nothing worse than being called a Nazi, and the left use it freely. Do you know how many times I've been called that online or to my face? First question when I defected was, how can you join a racist party? They're racist. But when I asked them to point to one racist thing that Reform has said or done, they can't.
So Layla, first of all, condemn completely all the abuse and hate you've received. I can tell you I've received my fair share and do every single day on social media. There's no place for it on any side of any part of the political spectrum. I'm pleased you brought in Charlie Kirk's family because we should obviously be thinking of them. And I, in fact, in that brief period before we knew whether he had been killed or not, I said a prayer for him myself.
That's one of his little girls on the screen, by the way. He's there with his little girls.
On the question of Keir Starmer, I think that the online safety bill is a bill that is designed to protect children. We're all parents sitting in this room. And the idea that Keir Starmer is against free speech to me seems absurd. I think one of the reasons we've got into this tangle is because, as I said earlier on in the show, we have now social media, and social media can't be beyond the law, because if I incite someone to go and murder someone, I should rightly be arrested for that. But it is a difficult area because at the same time as what I've just said, I think being right, we don't want the police having to constantly sift through, if that's what they're doing, tweets to look for possible breaches of the law, because otherwise we wouldn't have a functioning police force. So it's a really difficult area. It is not new to Starmer's Labour administration. This is not a Labour-specific issue, but it is an important issue, and we need as a society to try to get it right.
Let me ask you a question, Matthew. Have you ever called Reform a racist party?
No.
OK. But people
Have you called them a far-right party?
I can't remember what I've called them two years ago. I would certainly have called them hard right. And free speech, by the way, involves, of course, being able to call accurately as you see it a political party.
That wasn't my point. My point is, why are we hard right? What part of reform policy is hard right?
The constant focus on immigration, legal and illegal, and the encouragement by Nigel Farage of people peacefully to go and protest outside people's homes, which asylum hotels are.
They're not their homes.
No, that is where they live at the moment. That's where, and if your children were in those homes, and if my children, let me just finish, if your children were in those homes, or my children in those homes, we would feel appalled, and I thought it was disgraceful of Nigel Farage, and I'm very happy to call Reform, the party you represent, hard right, and that is my free speech, and it's not inciting violence against you, because I condemn any hate against you, but I will call you hard right because I think you are.
There you go. Look, this debate will rumble on and on. I just want to say it is horrendous what happened to Charlie Kirk. Of course, our thoughts and feelings with his very young children and his wife. People have just got to pack it in. You've got to pack it in calling people racist when they're just simply pointing things out. You've got to pack it in calling people Nazis, fascists, and all the rest of it. Pack it in, debate properly, respectfully. That's my wish for this country. That's all I've got time for. Thanks to the panel. Thanks to you at home. Have a good night. Night-night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Tomorrow will be pretty similar to today. We're going to see heavy downpours, but 5 minutes later, the sun may well be out, a gusty wind blowing the heavy showers across the country, and like today, might even be a few thunderstorms around as well. Here's the reason why. Low pressure sitting just to the northwest. It's been a very wet and windy day in the far northwest. The winds ease a touch through the night, but the rain will persist over the Highlands and the Western Isles. Elsewhere, lots of showers zipping through at the moment, but they will tend to ease from many eastern areas. I think lengthy clear spells here, showers never too far away from western coasts. Temperature-wise, well, dipping down into single figures for some spots. Fresh but bright start to Friday over the Midlands, much of eastern England and eastern Scotland. Generally a dry, fine start. Plenty of showers, though, in the west, and those showers will simply become more widespread as we go through the day. But as I said, generally a dry, fine start over East Anglia and the Midlands. The showers in West Wales, northwest England, likely to be heavy. Might even get a rumble of thunder again, and the showers moving through Northern Ireland. Again, no parts of the east starting dry, and that east-west split also in evidence across Scotland, with plenty of showers in the west. The wind's not as strong as today, but still a gusty, blusterous day. The showers will, as I say, become more widespread, certainly from late morning onwards. We'll see some over the Midlands and eastern England. Always, though, most frequent in the west, just zipping through on that brisk and gusty wind, making it feel cooler than the numbers would suggest. Temperatures actually close to average for the time of year, but certainly feeling fresher with the wind and when the showers come along, and there'll be more of them on Saturday too. Again, that mixture of bright spells and heavy showers. We may